Hello. We are going to talk about accountability systems today. So, I'm going to cover three key ways that, in my experience, have been very helpful and efficient in getting people to be accountable to what you're asking of them, the expectations that you're setting in the business. And as we approach the end of the year, here we are. It's Q4 2025. There's like 2.5 weeks left in the year. I would imagine that there are certain people on the team who are maybe behind plan, not meeting full expectations of the organization. Maybe there's an opportunity for feedback and approaches to finishing the year strong. And what these accountability systems I'm going to share with you today allow you to do is have these conversations in a way that is really effective. And as you step into 2026, you can set clear expectations that are going to allow for continuous feedback that are going to hold people accountable. Excuse me, because that's what it's all about. It's all about having clear expectations and your team being accountable to what you expect of them. So I'm going to start with sharing my screen. Let me just pop this up here. So we're going to cover three things. Navjeet, we're going to cover 360-degree feedback, 360-degree feedback, a really effective way to get feedback from your team, if you've got a large team or small, that allows you to take a look at yourself and the business and how they perceive it so that you can make adjustments that are going to create alignment and help people hold themselves accountable because they feel seen and heard. That's a really important one. Okay. Second thing we're going to cover is the 2x2 feedback framework, a real ongoing conversation you can have every single day with team members that are going to create growth from a talent perspective, from a people perspective, and business, and create open dialogue where people feel comfortable giving feedback and accept criticism, which in turn holds them accountable. And then the third is the responsibility blueprint. This is where I'm going to walk you through how can you lay out people's responsibilities so clearly with expected outcomes so that there's no questions asked. Who's responsible for what so we can hold them accountable to it. Sound good? Thumbs up if it sounds good. All right. So let's start with 360-degree feedback. So have you ever done a 360-degree? Oh, I got two E's in there. A 360-degree feedback approach at any time? Give me yes or no. Navjeet, are you familiar with the term? No. Okay. And has done it before. So 360-degree feedback is gathering information from all of your team members around you that give you a lens, a view of what they believe is happening in the business, feedback that they want to give to you when it comes to all kinds of things, leadership, incentive, um, uh, confidence in their abilities to doing their work, training, you name it. You get a 360-degree collection of feedback that as you, as an operator or leader in the business, or maybe an owner, have the ability to act on, to use as valuable information to make some small adjustments that are going to have a big impact. And if you've never done 360-degree feedback surveys before, one of the best ways that we can approach this is by using AI to build the survey. So there's really three steps to getting 360-degree feedback. The first step is create feedback survey. The second step is launch the feedback survey. And then the third is to collect data and share visibility. I'm actually going to make it 4 steps. And then the fourth step is to uh, create action plan. All right. So first step is creating the feedback survey. How do we do that? Well, honestly, the best way to do that is use AI. Okay. And there's 4 things you want to consider when you're using AI. 1, you want to prompt it. Okay. Give it a role. 2, you want to give it the task. Tell it what to do. 3, give it some context. And then 4, tell it the format you want it out. Okay. So I'm going to walk you through an example right now. And maybe, Navjeet, what business are you in? What industry? What industry are you in? You're in electronics manufacturing. Perfect. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen. And how familiar are you with ChatGPT? Perfect. So you understand prompt engineering. In this case, we're going to leverage it for creating a survey. So I'm going to talk, and I'm suggesting talk to the system. You know this already. I would take it. You don't want to be typing for hours, but let's give it some. Let's talk to the system here. So you are an expert HR director for an electronics manufacturing company who understands how to clearly lay out 360-degree uh, surveys for the organization, particularly for leadership, so that we can gather intel on what's working in the business, what's perceived as not working, and potentially make some changes that will have a big impact on the business. I need you to create a list of questions that I can put in a Microsoft Forms survey format that will allow me to send to my team and collect survey. We have been experiencing issues. One of our top salespeople recently left the organization for a competitor. And one of the feedback that we got from them on exit was that they were unhappy with the incentive program and that the incumbent, the competitor offered them a package that they just couldn't resist. And that hurts because we didn't want to lose this person and we probably would have made concessions. We've also got some challenges with people utilizing our CRM system. They're not engaging with it. We've tried many different approaches and are unable to get the engagement that we require. We've brought on a lot of new hires in the last year in multiple departments, and performance is mediocre at best, and perhaps it has to do with training. So these are some key challenges that we're dealing with in the business that we want to collect some feedback on. I also want to understand how our leaders are doing. We've got 2 area managers, 1 sales director, a controller, and a director of engineering, who all have significant teams. And we need to make sure that people feel comfortable working with them and are getting what they expect out of leadership. So please output this in a format that is listed so that I may transfer it to a Microsoft Forms. And as you can see, this is a simple process. Now, this is not new to you, but ultimately, this is going to allow us to create a survey quickly that's going to give us some 360-degree feedback. So we've got this excellent list that's coming out. How long have you been with the company? Which department do you work for? On a scale from 1 to 10, how satisfied are you? And I can go through all these things. But we've got questions around compensation, CRM usage, training, development, and onboarding, leadership and culture, organizational alignment, and so on. So what I would do is I would review these feedback questions, maybe give ChatGPT some more context if I feel something's missing, have it update, and then I will take all of these and I will transfer it to a survey platform like SurveyMonkey or Microsoft Forms, make it anonymous, and then I would collect the data. And what this is going to allow me to do is position the team members that work for the organization with an opportunity to give feedback in a way that they feel comfortable, that they're not going to worry about if they say something that they're going to get in trouble. Because you want honest feedback. That's why it's really important to get to be anonymous here. How frequently would you suggest your surveys be completed throughout the fiscal year? Great question, Navjeet. I would say once a year is probably plenty, okay, for these sorts of things. Because you're going to get insights that are probably going to require you to make a few changes. Okay, so you launch the survey, you collect the data, and then you create an action plan. And what I mean by that is, one, share the data with your team. Have some sort of town hall or a meeting and show it to everybody so that it's transparent. You don't want to keep this close to your chest. Say, look, we did the survey. Thank you for participating. Here is all of the results. Here are all the results from the survey. And what we've uncovered are these key areas that we want to address this year. So perhaps the example I gave of that top salesperson leaving because of compensation, perhaps it's going to prompt an opportunity to create an action plan that's going to involve reviewing incentive program. Or maybe it's going to have a CRM training or whatever the feedback brings on. So the idea is you create the feedback survey, you launch it, you collect the data, and you create an action plan. How this creates accountability is that your team is going to feel seen and heard, okay? And when they feel seen and heard, and they feel comfortable giving feedback, it makes it a lot easier for you to get clear on the expectations and give some context. So an example would be perhaps you ran the 360-degree survey and a whole bunch of people are still not using the CRM system after you've created the action plan and taken the survey feedback at heart. You can approach your team and say, you know what, team, we went through a 360-degree survey. We uncovered that CRM training was something that you absolutely thought was really important. We provided you with training. And now what I'm observing is you're still not leveraging the system at 100%. And here's the impact it's having on the business. We're still not where we need to be. And that'll allow you to create an accountability framework where you say, here's what we're going to do about it. Here are the next steps. I need you to step up and use the system, and you're going to come to me on Fridays with a report showing me everything that you're using and open the door to a more fluid approach to accountability. Now, I hope that makes sense. So here we are. Navjeet, you have another question, right? Mid-year, towards the end of the year. That doesn't matter. You can have it anytime. There's no good or bad time to start it as long as you have one, right? I've seen it happen mid-year. I've seen it happen at the beginning of the year. I've seen it happen on a random Wednesday in Q2. So whatever works. All right. So that's the first element of the accountability systems is conduct 360-degree feedback surveys for your team so that you can collect information, take action, and inspire accountability because they feel seen and heard. And you're improving your business and your understanding of what's really happening at the ground level with those insights. So now we're going to talk about 2x2 feedback. So one of the things that we have an opportunity to do with our team members on a daily basis is give and receive feedback. Not just give and receive feedback. And that's why this is called the 2x2 feedback framework. Okay. So what I'm talking about here is a daily approach, which is structured in a way to provide immediate actionable feedback. And you want to do this after every, let's use a sales manager and a sales person as an example, after every sales call. Okay. This could also be in different scenarios in different departments, but what I'm talking about here is a structured approach that encourages open dialogue, fosters growth, and should happen between a manager and an individual contributor after every interaction with a customer or an opportunity or outside party. Okay. So, step one of 2x2 feedback is led, and in this case, we'll use a sales rep. Okay. Led by the sales rep. So, let's say sales manager and a sales rep go on a joint call together for a large opportunity. They meet with a decision maker. Excuse me, and they had a great meeting presentation, and are working towards closing a big major deal. All right, and they end up in the car together. They're going to another call. Perfect time to give immediate actionable feedback. And the sales rep or the sales manager should say to the sales rep, hey, great opportunity to do 2x2 feedback. Go. So sales rep leads, and the sales rep shares one thing they did well in the call. You know what I think I did well was I nailed the close on that opportunity. I'm like 100% certain we're going to get a PO. The way that I locked in the pain points and attached our solution to that really saw the eyes light up on the stakeholder, and I'm feeling really good about it. The manager can then chime in and say, you know what? I agree. You did that very well. You crushed it. Or you can say, yeah, that was decent, you know, but here's what I believe you did well. And then the sales manager has an opportunity to chime in and share what they believe the sales rep did well. Then the sales rep chimes in on one thing they would do better next time. You know what? I completely forgot these documents that I wanted to leave behind. And I know that those would have been like the money. And I forgot those. And next time I got to make sure that I have that dialed in. I left them at the printer at the office. And that's the only risk that we have at losing the opportunity now. That would have been the golden ticket. And then the sales manager can chime in and agree or disagree. Yeah, you know what? I agree. I was wondering where the heck that was. You missed out. But here's also one thing that I believe you could do better next time. And it's the opportunity for the sales manager to give feedback. And the reason why we get the sales rep or the individual contributor to share first and take the lead is because they're going to have to critically think about what they did well and do better. And when they do that, they're more open to receiving feedback and critical feedback for that matter, because the feedback loop is already in place and they're inviting it in. So it's not like you're just showing up out of the blue and saying, hey, you could have done this better next time. Make sure you do that, right? You're having a dialogue, an open dialogue around it for both of you to give feedback. Now, the key here is that it goes both ways. So now the sales manager in this example has to share one thing they believe they did well in that call. So you know what? I think what I did well is I didn't speak too much. I let you drive that meeting. And I know as a sales manager, and you've seen me before, I tend to be talkative and I want to come in and I want to just take over the meeting. And I think I did that well. I didn't take over the meeting. And then the sales rep then has an opportunity to give feedback and say, you know what? I agree. And thank you for that because I was worried about that. And here's one thing I think you did well as well. You asked this great question to the VP over there that really locked things in, and I didn't even think about that. So thank you for bringing that up. And then sales manager shares one thing they would do better next time. All right. So here's one thing I would do better next time. Um, you know what? I should have reached out to that VP beforehand to let him know that I was coming because I didn't check the meeting invite and I know him and I was just at the golf course and I could have shook his hand and said I'm looking forward to being there, or maybe something else that he could do better next time. I'm kind of just winging it here, but and then the opportunity is it's 2 by 2 once again, so it goes in circles. Sales rep can say, you know what? Yeah, I agree. You could have done that better, but here's one thing I think you could have done better next time, or you could do better next time. And that's, um, you know what? There's one slide that I wish you would have spoke up on, and I should have said something, but I thought maybe you would have done it automatically, and that would really would have hammered home if you would have talked on that point. All right. So great opportunity to encourage mutual feedback. All right. That creates collaboration between a leader and an individual contributor, that strengthens communication and trust, which creates a culture of feedback. You should be doing this after every call. If you're on joint calls, again, doesn't matter what department, do 2 by 2 feedback. One thing you did well, one thing you'd do better next time, and vice versa. Give each other the feedback, acknowledge it or challenge it. And this approach not only serves as a learning opportunity for everyone, but it creates accountability. It is a very effective accountability framework that you can leverage every day after every conversation. So that's 2 by 2 feedback. And after this call, we're going to be emailing out the 2 by 2 feedback framework for you so that you will have a copy of how to do this properly. Okay. Any questions? Anything I'm missing before I move on to the next one? All righty. So the last piece here is the responsibility blueprint. So what is the responsibility blueprint? Many times in an organization, what happens is people are hired, they get their job description, and then they never look at it again. And then they get into habits of what it is they're supposed to be doing on a day-to-day basis. And things get missed. There's a lack of clarity on who's responsible for what. Sometimes people are stepping on each other's toes and the work is getting done twice. So a responsibility blueprint is Literally a spreadsheet. I'm going to share it right now. It's literally a spreadsheet where you really get clear on who is responsible for what in the business to hold everyone accountable to certain outcomes. So, an example here, all right, we've got the role. Okay, let me just lock this in here. I'm not even going to worry about it. So, you want to clearly outline the role. So, this tab is the leadership tab. You put all of your managers, your directors, your owners in this tab. And then this tab are all the core roles in the business, all the individual contributors. So in the leadership tab, the management tab, this is very important because oftentimes managers tend to have competing priorities or step on each other's toes, and there's a lack of clarity on who's doing what. So this is your opportunity to get really clear on that. So in this case, if you've got two principals in the business, you put their role down here, their name, and then you lay out the key responsibilities. Sit down with your team and the other managers and talk about what are your key responsibilities. And what you'll see is that if there's if there's like what's the word I'm looking for, where there's duplicate, right? So one principal is responsible for major manufacturer and customer relationships, and the other principal is also responsible for major manufacturer and customer relationships. Well, what does that mean? Can you get more clear on who? And is it really necessary that both are responsible for the same thing? Because ideally, everyone has ownership of specific things in the business. So you lay out all the key responsibilities, director of operations, sales systems and reporting, technology responsibilities, new systems, quotations technologies, whatever it might be. Controllers responsible for accounting and finance. So those are the responsibilities, but what really is important here are the expected outcomes. So we get it. You're responsible for major manufacturing, customer relationships, and company direction. But what's the outcome? Well, it's that you're going to grow overall business. You're going to put the right people in the right positions to succeed. Okay. And I invite you to get as specific as possible on this. Maybe it's growing the overall business by 10% over the next 2 years. And you're going to put the right people in the right positions to meet and exceed the revenue targets and the mission and vision of the business so that you can align it properly. So step one is always look at all the managers and leaders in the business. Make sure that there's no stepping on toes. You're clear on who's responsible for what and what the outcomes are going to be. And then you move on to all of the individual contributors in the business and take a look at your territory salespeople, inside sales, maybe quotations, warehouse. Yeah, these are all examples. Your executive assistant, engineers, whatever it might be. Okay. Put their name and get really clear on the key responsibilities. So in this case, territory salesperson, responsible for growing relationships, job negotiation, product training in the market, etc. But what is the expected outcome? That they're going to generate revenue, that they're going to submit jobs, create job submittals on a regular basis. And again, these examples are a little vague, but we can elaborate and say generate to meet and exceed annual revenue targets. So now I'm even more specific. Brand loyalty generated within the territory to grow leads list by 10% year over year, right? So this is where we have an opportunity to get really clear on the outcomes. And when we do this properly, okay, and this should take time, and you want to get feedback from the other managers and leaders. When you do this correctly, you can then sit down with each individual contributor or as a group and go over this. Outline it, share it. Hey, look, this is what the territory salespeople are responsible for, because that's going to add clarity across the other departments Because oftentimes people think that they know what the other person is responsible for and what they're supposed to be held accountable for, when really they have no clue. They're just guessing or they made an assumption. So this is going to allow you to keep a track of those things in a way where you can clearly communicate it, and then you can hold people accountable to it. And you can update this on an annual basis. Once you've completed your annual goals, include them in the expected outcomes, like I was putting in here, 10%, meet or exceed revenue targets, whatever it might be. So that is a simple exercise you can do that serves as an effective accountability system that goes really well, pairs really well with the 360-degree feedback survey and the 2x2 feedback framework. So if you do all three of these, what you'll notice is a big shift in accountability. Your team members are going to step up. And the reason for that is because there's going to be clarity on expectations. You're going to have effective feedback loops in place where they're going to feel comfortable sharing and receiving feedback. That's going to allow them to learn and to be aware of where they might be dropping the ball. And you can't go wrong. So we're going to send you also the template for the responsibility blueprint. So you'll have access to that. Use it as you wish. And we will go from there. And I want to make sure that I covered any questions you might have. So major takeaway here is there are accountability systems that you can put in place. They're easy to implement. I invite you to reach out anytime via email or through social media. I can help answer any questions you might have. And good luck holding your team accountable. Thank you very much. Everyone take care.